Greetings, everyone. Welcome to Artcasters number 219. And you may notice that we are down a man. So, yeah, it was kind of obviously.
You've lost a man, but gained a boy.
Yeah. Well, if anyone's living in the dark, a lot of people are. It's like this, just the season for people getting sick, and one of those people is Josh. So Josh is out sick, and this was supposed to be on Josh's channel tonight, and he was going to line up the guest and everything like that, and he's just totally out of commission and everything. I think he may have went back to work today, so hopefully he's on the mend. But he's just so exhausted from just being sick for so long. There's just like no way he could do it. So, so as usual, in a panic, I called Cory up and I was like, "Hey man, can you help us out?" And Cory kind of scrambled to find guests and stuff, and nothing. And he, last minute, it's really hard to do that because usually, the format is usually we have 3 people and everything. But I think in this case, for this particular episode, I think 2 people might work because we're going to try to keep it fairly concise, I think. So I guess we should just go around and we'll get into the topic and everything. So you are on my channel, so I'm guessing you know who I am, unless maybe you found this on Facebook or something, or one of the links that we sent out there, and that you're new to this. If so, I'm Scott with CircWorks. This is my channel, and usually we just promote anything we have to promote. I don't have anything major. Oh, I did sort of make a big announcement on my YouTube channel today about my series of books. I thought I had some. I only have one with me. But these are make your own comics. I've got a whole series of these. Some of their like blank comic book pages, and these are blank thumbnail pages for creating comics. And I've got some that have sound effects, and some that have word balloons, and some that you can design your own heroes, all that kind of stuff. So there's a video on my website for that, or you can go to, if you just go to circworks.com/shop/circ, or sorry, go to these are only available on Amazon. I forgot to mention that. So it's free shipping if you have Prime and everything. They're about $6.50 each, so pretty good bargain. But you can go to amazon.com/shops/circworks, and from there I've got from there you can click on either the books that I have, or my t-shirts, or the tools that I use, or whatever. So that's pretty much what I've got to promote today. Other than that, I'm doing a series on YouTube called Making Comics 101, where I'm taking you step by step through the comic book making process, everything from coming up with the ideas all the way to eventually publishing your book and everything in between. And right now we are at the I think, what are we? Dialogue. We're talking about dialogue this week. Next week, I think, is thumbnails, I believe. So anyway, yeah, if you're interested in making comics, definitely check that out. So what about you, Cory?
Yeah, I've been, for some reason, on a kick of starting a bunch of new YouTube shows. So you can just go to corykerr.com/videos to see that. I've got the show with Jim Lujan, which we're talking about animation. I've got a new show. The 2nd episode probably will be up later tonight, where probably spawned this topic, where we're talking about how to transition into kind of visual communication jobs, whether that be art or design or illustration, or video or social media or content creation or whatever. And then still 48-hour check and whatever. Yeah, everything else is kind of Instagram or whatever, and you can just find all that there. So you can just go to corykerr.com for the rest of that. But I've been trying to keep up on doing interesting things on Instagram. And live during this show, I will probably post one of the weirder posts I've done. So anyway, so yeah, that's just normal stuff. Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, kind of where I'm at.
All right, cool. And like I said, Josh isn't here, but we might as well pimp his stuff. So you can find Josh at quarterlystores.com and joshuakimball.com. And he's just getting ready to, hopefully fairly soon, release his comic book and everything. So he's still doing some of the finalization on that, but definitely check him out. in his absence. And yeah, so the topic, so like I said, we were going to have a certain guest and everything, and that kind of fell through. So I was like, well, what are we going to talk about? And I got an email today, and I'm not going to mention who it's from because I didn't get their permission, but it was kind of like they were in this, and I get these kind of emails fairly frequently, but they were kind of in the situation where they needed to make some quick extra money from their art to sort of supplement their income. They just mentioned other than they didn't want to bore me with any details, but that they, they a series of unfortunate events, and now they got to earn some extra money. So, as much as I tried to help out and give some advice, it's really difficult, especially when you're sort of in like a pinch like that, because to me, it's a lot of it has to do nowadays is with like building an audience and putting systems in place. And a lot of these things they take time. So, I mean, as far as, I think if you need quick money, unless you have those systems in place or unless you have those audiences, that might be not the best way to earn some quick money. And the only other thing I could think of was, the thing most people go to in a situation like that is to do commissions. Now, I will mention that this particular artist has professional quality work, and his stuff, he does comics and stuff, and his stuff really does look good. So that's not the issue, but that doesn't always mean, especially if you're not putting yourself out there and people aren't aware of what you're doing, and you're not constantly doing kind of the stuff that we do with these videos and being on YouTube and trying to build awareness of what we do, that can be difficult. But like Cory had mentioned, he's just recently had a video on his channel where he kind of had some of his students, and they kind of talked about ways to sort of, best practices for people going into design and communication and getting into the industry. So I think between those two, but the email that I received and what Cory has been talking about, I think it would be better because, I think it's better to kind of hash this stuff out, because like I said, I try to give the best advice that I could, but there's all kinds of things you can do, things you can try out and everything. But maybe it's best just to kind of go back and forth and give try to come up with some advice for people that might be in the situation. So I don't know, Cory, do you have anything that you want to add to kind of the way I set that up?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to do is probably a slightly different situation than what you're talking about. I'm trying to help people move into kind of more full-time employment. But I do think both of those things are kind of related. As far as quick cash, I kind of agree. This is not the thing for quick cash. I think there's a really good long tail game that you can play, but it's one that takes kind of planning and consistency over the course of a few years. And I know that that's not probably the answer that a lot of people are looking for. But that we can probably have that discussion. As far as like short-term stuff, I don't think there's a clear path, but I don't think that means that there's no path. I think you can be super inventive. And so like I saw somebody recently on a local Facebook group. There's kind of like the Facebook marketplace, right? And they said, I need some quick cash. Help me put my art skills to use. And they were doing these kind of quick, cheap mashups of people's pets with not open source, but public domain kind of paintings, right? And so they take like some royally dressed up person and then take somebody's pug and then kind of Photoshop, slam it together for $10. And I'm sure they had like a system, where it's going to take them a few minutes, and, and for $10-15, that's probably worth it. If you're really hard up and you don't mind doing 50 of those and you want to really pound the pavement, there's kind of like low hanging fruit in the gimmicks and in the whatevers. And then I think a little bit higher than that, there's Can you approach businesses? Can you, do you have a few bucks to put together kind of a postcard mailer where you could hit up, just local businesses or whatever, and just say, hey, just, love your shop. Just letting you know I'm in the area. Let me know if you ever need anything. So there's kind of tiers. And then as you move up that ladder, you're getting more into building an audience, building an understanding of kind of what it is that you produce, attracting those people for when they need that type of work, all the way to, looking for a job where you get paid to do that thing, or having a day job and then doing that kind of concurrently, what Sean West calls the overlap method, or, the same basic principle that John Acuff talks about in his book, Quitter, which is you have your thing that covers your bills, and you build a side thing until the side thing starts to overpower your main thing, and then you can transition over, and so it's hard to say, like, here's the path, here are the steps, because you're trailblazing. Anytime anybody does it like this, the economy, the system, the current thing is not set up to like input creatives, and so we're always going against the grain. We're always kind of burning trails and inventing new things. And so for the quick cash, I don't have a ton of answers on, other than a lot of grueling pavement pounding work that's usually going to be pretty low paying. I hope I never get into this situation where I've got to be like lower my commission prices into the, under $100, because I'm either going to be drawn super fast, or I'm going to be doing a lot of work for very little pay. And I see a lot of people out there that are, trying to do commission, and I can see, like, I saw like Ryan Otley, right? Ryan Otley's doing head drawings at a convention. Well, he's drawn that character 10,000 times. And so it takes him 3 minutes to get a Sharpie and do a little head sketch. And so he can just do that while he's talking to somebody. But like an actual fully inked 11 by 17 commission, he doesn't touch that for a few $100, And so I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure where you want to take the conversation as far as that, but those are just some initial thoughts, that there's not one way to do it. It's not like if you'd like to be a dentist, I can tell you exactly how to be a dentist, right? You're going to get your undergrad, you're going to get into a dental school, try to pick a good one. Once you get into a dental school and you graduate from dental school, you're going to do one of two things. You're going to start a practice or buy a practice from somebody who's retiring. Done. You're a dentist now. There are clear paths like that, but not really in art.
Right. And it's basically the advice you just gave, or it's pretty much what I told him, that right down to the kind of the pet portraits and stuff. I basically said, you need to find, I mentioned commissions. I said, it's not always the best paying, way to go, but it's probably like the quickest, I guess, or the easiest to kind of get people involved in, because basically what you need to do is you need to find people who have a passion for something. And you'd also mentioned the, let's see. Yeah, I already got the prison tears and I had them removed. So I'm out of it. I'm out of it. So yeah, where was I? So anyway, yeah, it's finding, if you can find people that have a passion for something. And I said, whether that's their pets or a loved one, or their car or their motorcycle or whatever they're into. And, there are like Facebook groups out there. You got to be careful when you move in. You don't want to just drop into some Facebook group and say, hey, you're into this, I can draw a picture. I mean, everything, like we mentioned, everything kind of takes time, and it takes building a rapport with people and stuff like that. It's really difficult. And I don't know exactly what point this person was in, how much his work is out there, other than I've seen his work and it's really good. And, he does the stuff that I've seen is comic related. And, the other thing I said is, if you can go to companies or whatever, if the key to, to getting work from companies or whoever is to find that person's pain point. What do they need help with, and how can you provide a solution with your artwork? So for instance, if they're a business and they have some sort of product or some point they're trying to get across that's really difficult to explain or whatever, that may be able to be explained better in like a comic strip form. If you can illustrate that, that may be of value to that person. There's some of the, as far as comic book jobs and stuff, some of the best comic book jobs I've had are like for like PSAs, public service announcements, or something along those lines. Or if you've ever been to like a school assembly, I've been to a few, and they'll have like at the end they'll hand out a coloring book or some kind of a comic book or something like that. Those tend to do well because whether it's a nonprofit that's putting that together, and nonprofit doesn't mean that you have to do the work for free. They do allocate money in their budget to do stuff like this for whatever. So that's one way. And we're in a creative industry, so it takes being creative to figure out this stuff. The things that I'm doing right now, because I'm in, just like what Cory mentioned, that as far as you're doing this thing and the goal is to, on the side, kind of build something else that can hopefully kind of overtake what you're already doing. And that's what I'm doing right now, because I'm in a situation where I have freelance work, but it's mainly coming from one client. And right now, this client is kind of reworking their business model and everything. So it's kind of on shaky ground now. We don't know where it's going to go. Hopefully he'll be able to pivot and continue going. But if that doesn't happen, then I'm in trouble. So that's when I started thinking to myself, and again, this is, you've got to take action. You've got to start thinking about this stuff. And to me, it was like, what's one of the fastest ways that I can start, building up some kind of side income. And by fast, there's still a lot of time that goes into it. But what I'm doing right now, and we had on a couple episodes ago, we had on BJ Dell. I watched one of his videos. And Cory, you were on that one, right? That was when Josh was there. Yeah. So I watched one of his videos, and he started doing, or he's been doing like Amazon, merch by Amazon and Amazon,
KDP,
basically publishing, what they call low content, or no content, low or no content books, I guess. And that would mean like a no content book would be like a sketchbook with a cover. From most of what I heard, those don't do very well, because that's the easiest, entry point for a lot of people. And there's a lot of people going into this, a lot of them being marketers and maybe not the best artists. So you do have a little bit of advantage, but the big part of it is the marketing. If you don't think you can market your stuff, you're not going to do well in this. And I'm at the point where, like with the t-shirts and everything, like we talked about earlier, I got out of those first two tiers, which are the hardest, but most of that, I don't think I've had an organic sell yet, like from just the keywords and stuff that I've put in there. So maybe I'm not doing it right. Maybe it's taking longer or whatever. But now I got more slots for t-shirts, because they enter you at these tiers. You start off with 10, then you move up to 20, and now I'm at the 100. So I can upload 100 designs, and it is a numbers game. So that can help increase my likelihood of one of my shirts being found. And if one of those becomes successful, that's when you got to jump in and figure out what made this successful. Can I kind of duplicate this? Can I do more of this? That type of thing. But it's competitive. There's a lot of people in it. But I know from most of the people that I watch that are doing videos on this, in a relatively short amount of time, they started making some money. And relatively short amount of time means a year or more. So that should just give you an idea. I mean, we're talking that to me is a short amount of time to be making some decent side income, investing in something that's going to take a year. And if you don't have a year, then you may be in trouble in something like this, because I'm not going to say you couldn't just knock it out of the park and just hit on something and right off the bat. Like I've already had some success with the books, the KDP stuff. We'll see now that I finally announced that I'm doing it, if that does any better. And I'm going to probably start running some ads and things. The other thing I just got approved for another Amazon program called Amazon Ignite, which is sort of like digital downloads for, sorry, my dog's snoring over here if you can hear her. But so it's digital downloads mainly for educational, for I think it's K through 12, and I think that's kind of where it stops off at. But I figured maybe I could sell the Comic Maker Toolkit there. I'm not sure. I got to kind of look into it a little more. But now I'm at the point where I've got these 3 different things, so I got to figure out what, and I've got a limited amount of time to put content on these. So what's going to work the best? So far, I've had probably the most success, I think, in the KDP and everything. And I know I'm kind of going all over the place with this, and I have talked about this a little bit before, but this is one of the bits of advice that I told the person through the email. This is kind of basically, this is what I'm doing, and it's not proving yet because I don't know what's going to happen, but I've seen other people that do it. And I think it's something that I can do, and I think I have a little bit of an edge. I mean, I know I think I'm fairly good at marketing, coming up with keywords and descriptions and things like that, and I know the artwork is good. So, we'll see what happens. But that's kind of what I'm kind of going all into right at this very minute. But in the meantime, I've got other stuff that's already out there. I've already started. I've got my YouTube course, and I get sales from. I mean, I'm making the Comic Maker Toolkit is making money. It's being shared in different platforms and things like that, and I still got people approaching me wanting me to sell it on their platform and stuff. So that's doing good. And if I can get more of those, and that would have been the direction I would have kept going down, and I'm not stopping that, but it to me, at looking to see what people are doing with these other programs, KDP, Merch by Amazon, I think that each design and everything will take a little bit less time than what some of these digital products do, because they just take a lot of time to do. So so now I'm also at a point where I freed up a little more time. So hopefully I'll be able to make more headway on all this stuff, and I'll just kind of see, what's working best, and then hopefully continue to go down that road. The good thing about this Ignite thing, and I'm probably, part of me, and I don't want to jump all over the place, but part of me thinks this is a brand new platform. So there's not a lot of people into it. I don't know how many people they're allowing into that program.
What is it? I didn't quite understand.
So it's basically digital downloads, mostly educational material for K through 12. So theoretically, and it's got different categories, whether it's reading, writing, mathematics, art, science. So I can kind of approach with the, and you can do different things. Like I could probably take some of my inspirational posters that are kind of science themed that I sell on my site, and maybe make them digital downloads. There's a lot of those would work for like something that somebody could print and put in a classroom, because they're inspirational and stuff like that. So that's something I can do. And I've got some other stuff that I've done that maybe you could turn into like flashcards that you can print out, or lesson plans, things like that. Or like I said, maybe even the Comic Maker Toolkit might work on there. I don't know if they have anything sort of at that price point. I'll have to look. I mean, the stuff that I have seen is a little lower price point, but right now the stuff that I've seen, it's not. I think I could do a better job, and that market isn't as saturated as some of the other ones, because it's like a brand new program. So these are some of the areas I'm going into. I mean, like it or not, Amazon is like the biggest marketplace there is. And even though, if I could sell the stuff on my site, I could probably make a lot more money, but a lot more people are going to see it on Amazon. So it's kind of like, if you can't beat them, kind of join them kind of aspect. Like I kind of feel like all the cab drivers that had to go to Uber just because, I mean, what else are you going to do? I mean, it's inevitability. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get into now. So I don't know. I just kind of
yeah, and then I think there's some the stuff I'm hitting in the Illotalk Student Edition. I think it'd be really helpful to understand, and so I don't want to come across and say, like it's hard. There's nothing you can do, because that's not the case, And so I think no matter what, there are some things that you should be doing. One is you should find a workflow where you can constantly be producing and improving, right? And so the episode that I recorded this morning that I'll be putting up later tonight or tomorrow is kind of about this. Most people, until they institute kind of levels of discipline, are working on kind of a spike and crash cycle, right? And so they have moments of productivity, sometimes even bursts of productivity where they're really productive for a short period of time. They burn out, they crash, they relax, they take some time off, they run out of ideas, they get creative block or whatever. But what I've seen is that people who are successful either at getting an in-house job or building an audience are able to produce at a sustainable level. And there's very seldom that those people are pulling all-nighters or taking a couple weeks off. You know what I mean? And so this idea of okay, I'm not going to be the all-nighter. I'm not going to like not sleep for 3 days while I'm doing this type of thing. That is not a sustainable situation. So I think sustainable production, I would look at, in my current situation, what type of time can I carve out? And you have to fight for it, right? You've got to decide, you've got to make it a non-negotiable. Like, most of us have several non-negotiables in our life that maybe we don't think about. Like, most of us would not leave the house without, or go to work or whatever, without showering and brushing our teeth. Those are non-negotiables because they've become to us important in the way that we're perceived by society, right? Cleanliness and hygiene and that type of thing. But we say things like, my art is important, or I want to be a designer, or I wish I had a job like this. But we don't act like it's a non-negotiable. And so I think that's like rule number one, is you have to get into a position where you are dedicating time, I would say every day, but at least 3 to 5 times a week, where you're putting in 30 to 90 minutes minimum. And you're producing. And you show up when you're sick, and you show up when you don't feel like it, and you show up when you don't have any ideas, and you show up when what you made yesterday sucked and you don't want anybody to see it. And you continue to show up over and over and over again. And what you'll find is that you will begin to build a body of work that people will come to you for, right? And so I think that's step number one. Step number two is consistently share the projects that you're making. And so whatever the thing is that you want to do, you need to be producing that thing. And so if you want to get into identity design, I want to see hundreds of logos in your portfolio, right? The worst thing that I think people kind of entering the marketplace do is they try to enter on a promise rather than on past work. People will hire you for the work that you've already done. They're risk adverse. They don't want to hope that you're going to do what you say. They just want to look and say, hey, look, this guy does X. I can tell he does X because on his social media, on his portfolio, on whatever, he has consistently shown up and done X for a long time. And I can see, and I can see a lot of it. I can see it's a consistent quality, and it's not a risk to hire somebody who's got a portfolio like that to do my logo, because I can see that's what they do. They're good at it. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, and it doesn't have to be like work that you did for an actual client. Just,
exactly.
Because that's the hardest thing to do, is you're worried about finding clients, and you're thinking that the only way you can, get clients is by showing work that you did for other clients. But just do what you want to do. And then hopefully what you want to do, there's sort of a market for it, or a transition, or it translates to things that people can use that they would want to use on their own products or own services, or to promote that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So be your own client. And so I say that there's two ways to look at that type of work, and both of them will get you to a similar spot, right? But it just kind of depends on which way you like to think about it. One way is, what do you want your next job to be? Whether that's working for someone or clients, either way, what do you want your next job to be? Who is currently doing that type of work? Stalk them, right? Look at their portfolio. Look at the projects that they've done. Look at their social media. Like, reverse engineer their career, right? If you want their career, reverse engineer it. See how they got that job. See how you do that type of thing, right? You can. All of that is publicly available. Okay. Then you just say, if that's the job I want, and that's the type of work that I want for my next job in 2 months, in 6 months, or whatever, you start making those things. And so you start making those things and you share them publicly. The other way to do it is a little bit longer tail, and I like this one a little bit better, is you imagine not what's the next job, but where do I want to be in 5 years or in 10 years? That's what I did 7 years ago. As I said, in 10 years, I'd like to be here. And then you say, okay, what does that person look like? What is 10-year into the future version of me look like? The ideal version. What projects have I finished? What clients do I have? What job do I have? What does my portfolio look like? What level of work am I at? Like, and then you just start knocking those things off the list. So if you have that list, I wanted to get into shooting television shows. Great. Okay. So 5 years from now, you need to have, 5 short films. You need to have, mastered certain techniques. You need to be like involved. Maybe you need to be a PA on 3 or 4 different things. And so you start doing that. How do you do that? You start your first short film, right? Whatever you need to do to get your first short film. How do you do that? I don't know. You go figure that out, right? I gotta figure out how to do that, because that's one of the things on the list of what, ideal 10-year in the future me looks like. And so there's that. And then I would say, beyond that, don't hard sell people. Do not, under any circumstances, come off as desperate or needy or whatever. If at any point in time you start sounding like somebody who just got into a freshly minted multi-level marketing thing, people will avoid you like the plague, because desperation is scary.
Yeah.
When you come off as like, dude, I really need some cash right now, people will immediately think, why? That's kind of, I don't know what's going on in your situation, but if it's not currently working, I don't know if I want to get in bed with you, right? In a business relationship. And so you don't need to lie, and you don't need to misrepresent yourself, but don't sit there and just beg on every post, like, please buy this print, please do this thing, hire me for, blah, 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 blah. You can mention every once in a while, hey, just looking for some work if anybody knows anything or whatever, but kind of like an 80-20 rule, share a lot more stuff than you ask for. Because I think that can be a huge turnoff to prospective clients, prospective employers, prospective commissioners, or whoever you're whatever. And so I would say those are some big things. And then from there, you can just kind of say, I've got a pretty consistent production schedule. I've got a way that it's sustainable. I'm sharing it publicly. I'm doing the work that I've strategically decided is going to get me where I want it to be. And then beyond that, you're waiting for and looking for and trying to create opportunities. And so it's a little bit outside of your control at that point, not completely, but a little bit. But if you don't have your eyes open, then there could be opportunities that arise that you'd be perfect for that you don't know about. And so this is where I would say, be at places that are useful. Go see if you can get involved in the Chamber of Commerce. Go see if there are business clubs or Rotary, or go see if you, I mean, there's always some sort of ad fed, federation type of situation. I was on the board of the local advertising federation chapter at one point in time. There's volunteer work that you can do. There's things that you can get involved with that will put you in a better position to be able to recognize those opportunities, because especially locally, most people are not going to they're not going to call up like the best illustrator in the world, right? If you're doing illustration and you're trying to get local work, and you're in someone's town and they own a cupcake shop and they want a mural on the inside of their wall because there's a billion cupcake shops in your little town, or it seems like it's now like cookie shops, like these little micro bakeries or whatever. They're all trying to differentiate themselves. They're not going to hire, some New York illustrator. They're going to hire somebody that's like within 20 miles of where their shop is, because that's their network and that's who they can afford. And so if you're available locally, then that puts you in a position where you can do that, right? And so that's that. I think the biggest problem that people entering the marketplace have is the misperception that their problem is opportunity. Because most of the people that I am in contact with that are starting their careers, if I was able to bring in a Fortune 500 company that said, I need to pay a designer $150,000 to come and work for me, that's a great opportunity that they are not capable of capitalizing on. They're not there. Their level of work isn't there. Their the quality of work and the production work isn't there, right? And that's not saying anything bad. It's just saying that opportunity isn't the problem. Your ability to recognize and meet and deliver on that opportunity is the part of it that you can control. Anyway, So there's a big long rant, and that could be a 4-month play, but that could be a 5-year play too. And it really depends on a number of things. If you're able to put in 20 hours a week on top of your McDonald's job to do that, that shortens the time. But if you're in a situation where you've got 5 hours a week, it's still good, but it lengthens out the time, because there's just a certain amount of time where you've got to put your nose to the grindstone to get it done.
Yeah. So going back to your idea of desperation, I mean, I think you kind of were totally on point with that. And I think it's a matter of you don't want clients to come to you because you need them. You want them to come to you because they need you. So I mean, and that's kind of how you have to set up that relationship, as far as, this is what I can do for you, not what can you do for me, and there are ways, if you are in a position where you say you need to I just need some quick money to do commissions, or instead of saying, hey, I'm really in a bind, I need this. I mean, you can present it in a way that's more like, look, I'm doing a special deal right now. This isn't something I always do, but I'm trying some new things out, and I want a good what's the word? A good sample of, not sample, but you know what I mean. I want to try to get some people just to try this new art style or whatever. So this is what I'm doing. If it sounds like something you're interested in, apply, and then we can try, I can do this for this special deal. And if you're having issues with this, I think I can help you. Something like that. It just the desperate, and I've seen that, and it's, even though, and it's not that I don't want to help people out, but kind of like what Cory said, it's just like, am I going to be able to help them out? Because I've done that before, and it just doesn't. And for certain people, it's like, okay, you do that, and then they're kind of back in that same situation. It's like a never-ending thing. So, and if you do find yourself in a situation like that, where you're constantly like, okay, I need to do this quick commission scale so I can bring in some money to pay rent or whatever. There's got to be, there's got to be other ways to do that, at least to get yourself even. And sometimes maybe you're in a position where just that trying to, make a living off of that freelance just isn't working. There's no shame in getting a day job and then, doing your side hustle and then build that thing up. I mean, in some ways, yeah.
I actively choose that position.
Yeah.
I prefer that.
Yeah.
And some people don't, but I completely agree. I fight against the idea that that's a lesser position to be in.
Right.
I think if you can do a job, I'll tell you something that at least for a short period of time, like 5 or 6 years, can work really well. Find a job that doesn't tax you mentally.
Right.
And you work that job, and I'll tell you what'll happen is if you are doing your real work at night or on the weekends or during the day or whatever, then and you're slinging boxes during the day in a warehouse or something, your mind is free to come up with incredible ideas, as you're doing that type of thing. I mean, my brother does janitorial work and he loves it because, or he did for a number of years. He doesn't anymore, but he loved it because it was really repetitive. And so he was able to free up kind of his thinking while he was doing the same thing that he did yesterday and the same thing that he's going to do tomorrow. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, that can be a good opportunity and if you view it like that, you can say, hey, this is great. I've got scheduled time to be able to think while I'm running this vacuum, right? Or whatever it is. And so I think I completely agree. I completely, and you were saying ways to not come off desperate. I've seen several people do this where they're like, crap, guys, I'm hurting for cash. I really need help, right? That is a different situation than saying, and if you're doing that every couple of years, that's way different, right? If you really do get into a bar, right? I think that's fine. I'm not saying that that's bad, but if that's your consistent message, that becomes really concerning and it raises a lot of red flags. But you can say the same thing, and this is true. Say, hey, I've got some spots that opened up in my production schedule. I'd love to fit you in. Because what that says is I am producing. I will continue to produce after this, but right now here is a limited availability where you can get in and get some work from me. And it sounds different, and it's communicating in a way that is using a sense of urgency, and marketing and business people and people who understand money will appreciate that you are communicating in a professional way rather than a desperate way. Because as soon as you position yourself as someone is doing you a favor by hiring you, that's a terrible relationship. It's a terrible relationship. I mean, if you're like, I really need a job, well, you've just lowered your salary just in that negotiation, right? Or if you're like, I just really need some work, and somebody comes to you and they say, all right, I'll give you $10 to do a drawing. You're like, well, didn't you need the work? I'm offering you $10. It's like, you're not in a good position there. So
yeah. And like we talked about, if you have that other means of income where there's just, your average job or whatever like that, that means that you don't have to give away your work for next to nothing or whatever. If you have, if you're making some sort of income, then you can sort of be picky, and, pick and choose and pick your, the jobs that you like and charge a little more and everything. And just kind of going back to kind of what you're talking about with some of those type of jobs. One that I've heard example of that I kind of like is sort of like the night watchman or something, a job like that where it's basically you're just there to kind of make sure if something goes down, that there's somebody there. But most of it is just monotonous. You're just sitting there waiting, and it's perfectly fine for you to work on your comic or whatever while you're doing those. Those are I don't know how easy it is to get positions like that, but but yeah, I mean, that's like the perfect scenario. So there's stuff out there like that where you can still, you can still make a decent living and do your stuff on the side and build your side hustle like that on the side. The other thing I want to talk about a little bit, and it may be an entirely different topic, and I know we've covered it a little bit, is just, a lot of people are like, okay, that's great, but where do I find these people that need the work? So it's a little bit more than networking. I know going forward, we're going to be talking a little bit about like Creative South and getting out and networking, and some of these, depending on, and some of the stuff there is a bit of an investment involved. It does cost money to go to some of these conferences and things like that. But there's like Cory had mentioned, there's probably like a local chat. I know I think a lot of the people that watch this are probably more on the illustrative side than the graphic design side. So maybe the AIGA or some of these design conferences aren't, the key. But a lot of these people, because they are designers and not illustrators, they may need illustrators for a particular project or whatever.
Right.
And something I did want to mention just off the bat, because I mentioned that I would just mention this on our show, and it's kind of relevant. Let me go back here. So if you've heard us talk about Creative South and everything, if you thought maybe this is something I want to check out, Diane Gibbs, who kind of runs, I mean, she's going to be a speaker there this year, and she's a friend of mine, and I've been in her mastermind group and everything. And she kind of runs all the volunteers. Usually when you go there, she's probably one of the first people you talk to. But she's got a thing right now where I think, what does she say? I'll put this up here. You can email her at Diane at Creative South. But they're looking for volunteers. So basically, if you can donate 6 hours of your time, and especially, I think this is something that's kind of good, even if you're a little more introverted size, and you can kind of pick and choose what you would like to do, or you like to help out. If you want to serve drinks or something for 6 hours, and I don't think it's 6 hours in a row, I think you can kind of break it up or whatever. And the rest of the time you can do whatever you want, and you'll have a lot of time to do that. But that's a good chance to meet people and talk to people, and who's going to be more happy than when you're giving them a drink or whatever, So, but I think you can get $200 off your ticket. So if you want, and Cory and I will both be there. So if you're thinking about going, it's in Georgia. It's around the 1st of April. You can just Google Creative South, but definitely if you thought about maybe this is something you might want to do, but you want to save some bucks, I think the normal ticket is like $450 now. But I think it comes out to like $211 if you volunteer. So you can save money there. So,
and students get a heavy discount as well.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, if you're in high school or college, and you want to do something like that, a lot of these conferences will give a pretty heavy discount for students. I mean, Adobe Max, they knock like $900 off the ticket. I mean, they're almost letting students come for free to Max, but Creative South is kind of the same. And so, I mean, also, if you are attending, you're going to meet people and you're going to do stuff. But if you're volunteering, you're going to meet people who are putting that conference on.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? And so, I'm not doing the volunteer thing, but I did see a lot of the people that were volunteering, and it's like I met them several times as they were like, helping us, get in a line to go to the food or do the thing or whatever. And I noticed for the volunteers, it was a really great way to network and to talk to people and that type of thing. And so, yeah, I'd look at like the children's book illustrators. They've got chapters all over the place. Look at AIGA, look at your, advertising federation, your AAF, your whatever, like there are multiple organizations that you can get into. And they're all going to need help. Like in my town, which is not a large town and is very remote, the local advertising federation, they put on lunches. And several years ago, I was asked by a print shop who wanted to get more into t-shirt design. They asked me to speak at a luncheon about t-shirt design and the value of good illustration on t-shirts for business promotion. Well, that was fantastic for me because I was positioned as an expert in that field to a bunch of businesses who were there to get a free lunch. It was great for the print shop because they were able to offer value to their potential customers. And so they put on this event. So I'd go find your local Alpha Graphics or whatever version of print shop you've got in the area that's usually run by entrepreneurs. Go hit up the radio station, go hit up the newspapers, go hit up these businesses that are trying to be community organizers and see if you can put something together. A former student of mine just sent me a note, and he's got a fantastic idea. He said, I'm gonna start teaching people how to use Adobe Illustrator. And so he's going to get in contact with kind of a local computer lab, put a thing together, and they're going to kind of split the ticket or whatever. So there's lots of ways to get out there and position yourself as somebody who's like, if at some point in time, I'll tell you, I did not get 50 jobs from that luncheon, but I got one job that paid really well. You know what I mean? It was, and it wasn't even a t-shirt. It was an illustration for a motorcycle shop. But I mean, that type of thing can be really beneficial, or even just saying like, going and saying, hey, I'd like to do this. I noticed that you guys are, great at this. Like, can we partner and put on an event? Right. And then you can also look at, there's a ton of things that people don't think about. And a lot of the radio stations, a lot of the newspapers, a lot of these older forms of media, they are doing all kinds of things to stay in business. And they will put on these lunches, these business lunches, or they'll put on little mini conferences or whatever. And a lot of times, like hospitals or charitable organizations or chambers of commerce, they want things to happen. And so you can go to the Chamber of Commerce and you could say, like, I'd like to do a big thing in the park where we just start teaching kids how to paint. And so let's just set up a bunch of easels or whatever. And then you have a booth there where you can sell your stuff, or you can be there and you just say, hey, from like 2 to 4, I'm going to teach people how to do this paint. And if you're going to teach all the 9-year-olds in the city, well, guess what? Their parents have money and they work at places that might need what you're offering. And all of a sudden their kid comes home with a kind of paint by numbers thing, and they're super excited about you. And all of a sudden they know your name and they know that you're an artist. Right? Or there are so many different ways that you can get involved. I mean, even like farmers market, start your own festival, make a convention, do a short film festival, get a drink and draw going, do stuff in your local area to raise the awareness of the creativity that's in that local area. And here's the really important thing: do it with the intention of adding real value to those around you, rather than the intention of trying to take whatever you can from people. Because you call it karma, you call it the law of the harvest, you call it reciprocity, whatever it is, you need to be putting stuff out there and it'll come back to you. But if you go out there to take, people will sense that from a mile away. And not everything's going to work. I know people that showed up to a farmer's market and just and didn't make table. They didn't sell enough stuff or whatever, and that happens. But I know people that is now 100% of their income, is that they show up every Friday to sell their handmade jewelry, or whatever, and they spend all week making it. And so that's kind of what I'm talking about, is the system isn't built with a clear track to like becoming a dentist, but that doesn't mean that you as a creative have to just roll over and die and say, well, there's nothing I can do. So, so anyway, that's kind of just some thoughts. I would literally just say, what's the most creative way that I could get out there? How could I do that? And just look for organizations, just Google organizations, go talk to people. I mean, if you don't know what's going on in your city, you have a building in your city that's probably in the center of town that is full of people that are trying to make sure that that city feels like a city. You can just walk in and there's probably going to be brochures and whatever. And you can just say, is something going on like this? You know, is there an arts council? You know, is there a something? Is there, you know, like in a different city that I lived in, there was an art museum that was a city art museum. And for like $10 a year, you could become a member of that museum, a member artist, and they had events. And because you had like opted in, and you can donate more if you want, but their goal was actually to get a bunch of artists together and to get that work out there and get it going. Like it's beneficial to society that art exists. And so most communities understand that they need to be promoting the arts. And so there are government programs, there are city programs, there are municipality initiatives to do that. And it's probably happening and you just don't know about it.
Yeah. So I wanted to call some things out from the chat here. Okay.
I just want to say the Law of the Harvest sounds like a really awesome metal album, and I agree.
So I got a couple comments from Arthur Moorhead. He says he's an artist from Naples, Florida, and it's been tough for mural artists. It's been a while since I've done any mural work. The one good thing about murals is that when people commission a mural, whether it's in their business or if it's in a public space or whatever, the whole idea of that mural is to get people to see it. So
yeah,
and then people see it and like, oh, who did that? So you know, that's one of those areas where typically, and like Arthur says, maybe it's not, you know, it's different now, but I know when I was doing murals, it was like one job begets another job, and it just kind of, and you didn't have to do as much marketing. I don't know. I'm curious if you've ever looked into doing, if you do murals, if you've looked into doing maybe, you know, window painting for business. I'm not sure if you've seen Scott Campbell's channel. He's since retired from doing windows. Now he just kind of teaches it, but he was based in Portland, and you know, he did really well doing. It's more of a sign painting thing, so I'm not sure if that's quite your thing, but you know, there's a lot of businesses that, I mean, again, you're solving a problem for people. I have a business. How am I going to get people into my stores? You do that with advertising, and window painting is a way to get people in your stores. You do something fun, something inviting, you get people in your stores, and that's how you need to approach businesses like that. Is like, you know, how's the traffic? You know, is if you had some, you know, if you had some really cool artwork on your windows, you think that could get more people in here? I think I could help you out with something like that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if you've done anything, but I know just as somebody who has done murals, and I've also done a little bit of window painting, I don't think it's that dissimilar. He says he paints it all. Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, we're like we've mentioned, we're kind of we're in the creative business, so we have to put that creativity not only to our artwork but also our marketing as well. And it sucks because when I started this, I didn't think I was going to have to be a marketer. I thought I was just going to be able to draw, and then people would just come knocking on my door, and I kind of had a rude awakening. That's just not how it works. So unless you've got the money to pay somebody to market for you. And I've tried that too, especially even with murals. And I've got probably boxes of postcards for murals when I was planning on doing that as a business. And I had, you know, I found somebody, I solicited somebody that was going to work on commission to help market my murals and everything. And, you know, they said, oh, this is great. We love you. I love your work. I can definitely get you some work. And, you know, and I would offer them a commission for each project. And unfortunately, they didn't really deliver. But that's, you know, that's one person. So I don't know. Maybe that's a possibility if the marketing isn't your strong point. But yeah, I don't know. It's been kind of a while since I've done that, so I don't know how much I can speak to it. But I know a lot of people. I've heard a lot of people are doing. I think the hand lettering murals for a while, that was like kind of a big thing. You see it on some menu signs and things like that, all that kind of stuff. But again, if you're comfortable enough approaching a company or whatever, or if it's somebody it's always easier when somebody you already know. Maybe if you know somebody in business, or say you frequent an establishment all the time, and you're friendly with those people. If you can see what problems they're having, you might find a way to solve it. Like if again with the menus or whatever, and I don't know. I mean, and sometimes it could be. I've heard people do creative things. Like for a while, there was a person who was doing, just they were doing like restaurants, and like, what, I just need to kind of build some stuff from my portfolio. I'm willing to, if you want to comp me some meals or something, I'm willing to do it that way. And then they got to the point where just like that wasn't the case anymore, because they got so much work doing this from all these different businesses and stuff. So
I got a lot of dental work done that way.
Really?
When I first graduated college, I just needed some dental work done, and so just found some dentists with some terrible looking websites, and I said, "Hey, do you want to barter?"
Yeah, yeah.
And it was great. I got a few $100s worth of dental work done for free, and then they got website out of it.
Yeah.
But along those lines, I have this great story. There was a group of students who were PR students, actually. But I think that anybody could do this. They were doing a PR campaign for a local jeweler, right? And if you're wondering who's really hurting right now, it is people trying to sell diamonds to millennials. That's like, they don't care. Like there's a generation of people that are like, I don't want to pay thousands of dollars for that rock, right?
I'm not a millennial and I don't care. I think it's a rock, but that's right. My personal opinion. But and I've always thought that.
But I mean, my generation, your generation, generations previous, like there were enough people to sustain that market, but people that feel that way have started to overtake those that don't. There's even songs about it, And so anyway, like Lord's Royals, right? There's a line in that about how they don't care about diamonds. But anyway, so they're doing this PR campaign for this jeweler, and they said, you know what you need? You need a giant, super cool mural on the side of your building. You're on Main Street. You got this great, huge brick building that looks awesome. And so they mocked up this idea. They're like, what if we painted this huge diamond ring, put it on a black background, like do all the stuff that you do in your store, but do it in mural form. And then they went to the city and they got it permitted, and it was awesome, and it looked awesome. And they found an artist, and they're like, hey, would you do this? The jeweler paid for it, paid the artist, bought all the paint, did all that stuff. And then they have this really cool time-lapse video that they can use on social media of the mural being produced. And so I thought you could do that, right? Because Scott and I went to Creative South last year, and one of the speakers, and we've talked about this, one of the speakers talked about you could do, he just would do something cool, and he'd be like, it would look awesome on that wall. So he would take a picture of that wall, and then he would mock it up in Photoshop of how cool it would look. And then he would tag all the businesses in the area and try to find like the owner of the building and tag them and just post it and just be like, hey, look at this cool thing. And he said a lot of the times that the businesses would see that and they would reach out to them, and they would say, hey, will you do that? Actually, will you actually do that in real life? Like, I know you just mocked it up, but will you do it? And he's like, yep, let's do it. And so I think a lot of the times, if you can show people, hey, your business could be cooler. Because I mean, right now, retail is hurting. Like Amazon is kicking their butt, right? And so window painting and murals and stuff like that, if you can do something to get people to buy locally, then there's work there for you, right? If you can drive traffic into a store rather than to the internet, there's work locally. So anyway, and Arthur's saying marbling and wood graining and stuff like that is also cool. So
I'm curious if Arthur's doing any like social media marketing, because what you said about that time lapse, I mean, that's awesome because everything is moving towards video. I mean,
yeah.
I heard a statistic that I think it was Cisco put it out or whatever, but it was like in 2022, what, like 90% of what you're going to see on social media is going to be video. And that's great for Cory too, but with the animation, because that's just another form of video. So, I mean, if I saw a mural coming together like that, I would be interested in that. That seems like.
Well, and I'll show you literally what I'm doing right now. I don't know if you can see my screen, but right now I'm just real quick on my iPad. I am editing a video of a drawing I did, because I think anytime you can show movement,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
it catches people's attention. And so almost on every time I post a still image to Instagram, I'm going to do a carousel with some kind of movement, whether it's going to be a video, a time lapse, an animation. Even if I just take it into After Effects and I wiggle something a little bit, movement is way better. And I agree. Yeah. So.
Yeah,
anyway.
there was a Ryan from Dream Syndicate made a comment a while back about Instagram. I don't know if I can find it. Let's see. Oh yeah, my struggles is editing YouTube videos and clips for IG. Super time consuming. So while it's great for building brand marketing, it hurts my production and my new work. Yeah, that is definitely. If you notice, there's like, my Instagram really hasn't had anything since Inktober, but I'm putting a lot of my effort into YouTube now. The one thing, I guess the one thing I could say for that is, if you can find a way to batch that stuff together, like if you can put aside some time to just put together a number of posts, that's basically what I'm doing with the YouTube content. I mean, this weekend I'm hoping to film at least the raw footage for 3 episodes, and then I'll edit those 3 episodes rather than just doing one at a time, because if you batch stuff like that, you can save some time, and you can just build up sort of a buffer with that. Eventually, I think it's gonna be a matter of me finishing this series, because it just takes so much time. But once I'm back to a regular sort of YouTube schedule, then maybe I'll try to do the same sort of system with Instagram, because I keep saying every time that I'm gonna start concentrating on Instagram, and I just I'm having the same trouble as Ryan. So it's
yeah. And I have some tips on that.
Yeah,
because I've made, I don't know how long I've been doing this. I don't know. Probably about when you and I met is about when I really kind of started on YouTube. I've optimized it. So how long ago was that? 2-3 years ago, something like that. And here's what I found. I can spend 5 times as long as I need to putting together a video by thinking about it as a project by itself, where I design new stuff, I animate new things, I really go through and I cut and I edit and I do this stuff. But what I found is I can eliminate a significant portion of that just to have an assets folder. I have an asset pack. I have that asset pack on my phone. I've got it on my iPad. I've got it on my desktop. I've got it on my work computer. I actually literally, and I know this sounds weird, but I do a lot of weird things. I carry those assets with me in my wallet on an SD card in case I ever need them. And here's what they are. I have 5 or 6 different lower thirds, right? A lower third graphic that kind of pops up at the bottom of the screen. I might even have some of those. I don't have many of them loaded, but I've got lower thirds. I've got one that just says my name, one that says my name and my website, one that says my website and my Twitter and my Instagram and my YouTube. And I found that I can just slap those on top of stuff. And they're web optimized PNGs with an alpha transparency, which means when you're exporting it from Photoshop or Illustrator or whatever else, you just make sure that it's transparent. And I set them, no matter what size they are, the whole image to be 1920 by 1080 so that it's HD. Then I've got an entire pack that's square for Instagram so that I can have that. And then I have slides. I've got my logo. I've got all that stuff. And I've got about 20 different PNGs in this little folder. And so when I'm ready to go and make a video, I slap it together. I cut it real fast, speed it up, do the thing. I slap one or two of these things on the top, then it looks branded, and then you export it, right? I also in there, I have my intro animation. I've got my kind of the music sting that I use. And so I have all those assets. I found for the first maybe year of making videos that every video I was treating it as if it was like a client project. And the problem with doing that is like, it just takes so long. It takes 8 hours, right? But sometimes I can put together an Instagram post with 3 or 4 60-second videos in 20, 30 minutes, because it's just the thing that I do at the end of the production. And I make sure that while I'm producing, I record some time lapse. I take some behind the scenes photos. I get a video, or I hold my camera up and I talk about, what it is that I'm producing. And so it is time consuming. There's no way around like the fact that it does cut into your production time, that it's time consuming, and it's super frustrating. But try to think of ways to optimize the production of it so that you can spend more time on the art.
Yeah, that's great. So I was attempting to do something like that a while back, and I was having a hard time as far as like basically all I wanted to do is what you were talking about, where I've got like a lower third or something that I could easily throw over like something to post in Instagram. And I tried to find like apps that would do that, and nothing that I found. There were all kinds of apps that would let you put things that other people, that whatever the app created, like, oh, put this thing over this, but I couldn't find anything that would let you just load a PNG and put it on top of of your whatever artwork you're doing. I couldn't find anything at the time. Maybe there's something like that now.
Are you talking for a still or for
a still? For a still.
Because you can do it on your phone. Autodesk Sketchbook.
Okay.
Do it on your phone. Do it on your iPad. And it has layers. It's free.
Yeah. Okay.
And it'll do that. And if you want to do it for video, use LumaFusion.
Okay.
LumaFusion is a video editor. I think it's like $10 or $20, but it's one time. It's not like a subscription. And you can do the same thing. I've got actually in LumaFusion, I've got a folder that has all my assets, and you just click a button and it just puts it on there. And so, I mean, that's another thing. And this is probably terrible. Not probably, I know it's bad for you, but I will often lay in bed at night with my phone, and instead of surfing the internet or wandering around Amazon or Twitter or watching a YouTube video on my phone, as I'm falling asleep, I'm going to be putting those graphics over some videos and editing. And it's really annoying to edit a video on your phone, but it's possible, and I'm going to be falling asleep anyway. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be in my phone anyway. So, I mean, I would do it while you're pooping. I mean, instead of playing Tetris, instead of playing Angry Birds or whatever, turn your phone into a piece of production that you can use as well. Because oftentimes your phone is actually wasting more of your time than it's helping you. But if you can say like, hey, I got 5 minutes while I'm waiting for the bus, or for this meeting to start, or I'm going to go to the bathroom, and you can there are some times where I will just edit several minutes of a video 50 times over the course of 3 or 4 days in the minutes that I have in between things on my phone. And then a couple days later, I've got my Instagram post. And it's not efficient, right? But it's definitely better than playing Angry Birds for 4 hours that week or whatever. So yeah, so I do And Frank says he does all of his editing on his phone. It's
Yeah,
not fun. I don't like
for
it.
me.
I don't like it, but it's slower, but it's better than nothing.
I'm just like, I keep thinking I'm just so old, because when like all these statistics of everyone doing so much stuff on their phone, and I would just rather do it on a desktop and have, of course, I've got a pretty nice setup here where I've basically got two monitors up here. I got my Cintiq. So it's kind of hard to go from that to this little phone, because I mean, I'm constantly dragging windows over to other monitors. And I mean, I just like this kind of command center thing I've got going on here. So for me, the phone just isn't going to cut it. But I mean, I'm definitely in the minority, because like, you know, we were talking about, or people were talking about KDP, how like when you go to buy a book on Amazon, if you're on your desktop, there's usually a thing that says look inside, and you can actually see what the book looks like. But if you're just ordering on your phone, you can't see that. And I'm thinking, man, you kind of, and me as I think somewhat of a savvy shopper, I want to know what I'm buying. I want to do as much research on something, but maybe again, I might be in the minority. Some people are just like, I'll buy it, click, So I don't know, but it seems like some of that stuff you're just limited to what you can do on a phone.
Oh, it's definitely limiting. But what I'm saying is, if you are working with nothing right now, the phone is better than nothing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know
I mean, the fact that we have this basically computer in your pocket, it's pretty incredible. So, yeah, I don't argue with you there. I mean, I'm fortunate enough where, I have a pretty nice computer set up and everything, but I know people that have that and still prefer to do most of the stuff on their phone. But
well, I mean, I'm looking at you on a Cintiq right now.
Yeah.
I'm in my kind of command station. I've got my drawing table behind me. I can spin 270 degrees. I've got 3 different stations from this position right now. And I need to do a studio tour at some point, but
yeah,
but I still find myself like, I'm going to hang out with my wife. But while I'm doing that,
right,
we're going to watch TV. We're going to be talking to each other or whatever. And if I don't have to do anything with audio, then I can be either illustrating or animating or editing or slapping some stuff together for a social media post or something while I'm doing that. And as long as I'm able to multitask and engage and I'm not like disengaged. But I mean, if we've just got something on TV, I can listen to that while I'm editing a video, and so anyway, it's interesting, and I agree. I mean, Dream Syndicate says pretty desktop centric to edit with Premiere. In my ideal situation, when I want to be fast and I want it to look really good, I go Premiere and After Effects and that's it. But I mean, Frank says I do it because I don't have all the money for all that cool stuff. I just use what I can with what I have. That is perfect. That's perfect, right? I mean, if your computer is a 2012, whatever, then use what you've got. That's great. I mean, I think that is exactly kind of what we've been talking about this entire time. Is like, you got to do it. You got to do it today. And anytime you come up with an excuse of how you can't do it for whatever reason, if you can't spend $5,000 on the computer, you don't need to, right? You can spend a few $100 on it. I mean,
I can't spend $5,000 on a computer.
I can't either, but I actually switched to a PC so that I didn't have to.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, like, iPads that used to be $1,000 are now $300. And $300 is a lot of money. I get that, but like, can you put away $20 a paycheck for a few months, and then eventually you've got enough money to get an iPad, and then you have a workstation that you can produce a ton of stuff on? I mean, iPads are inexpensive, portable. The batteries last pretty well, and you spend another $100 on an Apple Pencil eventually.
Yeah,
and you've got
those new iPads. That you don't need the iPad Pro to because that's when I heard that they had the pressure sensitivity and the pencil capability on the newest just standard iPad. That's what kind of got me thinking I wanted to get an iPad, and then for whatever reason I kind of got this rabbit hole. I'm like, well, maybe if I could just upgrade a little bit, and then I ended up with an iPad Pro. But you can still do that on the standard iPad. But I think that's, unless you have anything else, we're at an hour and a half. But I think that's a good way to end it. Is just don't use these excuses. Whatever I mean, whatever means you have, I mean, that's what you need to use to, start, building this as a business, or making money doing your art, or whatever. I mean,
And I think the biggest two things for me are, your path is your path, and you are a creative, right? Whether you're a painter, whether you're an illustrator, whether you're a designer. So come up with creative solutions for that path. That's the biggest thing, is figure it out. No one knows but you. And so you go out there and you make your own opportunities and there's probably 10,000 things that we didn't talk about that I haven't even thought of that you could do right now today in your community to get things going in the next couple months. Yeah.
And I know Frank was joking here when he says that I've got that sweet prison tier money, but just a quick thing to end on. Yeah, I mean, with those shirts and stuff, to get out of there, I was pricing them at pretty much zero profit for the most part. So, but that's sometimes that's what you have to do in order to build these things, and to move up, is you've got to invest more of your time. And even if you have the money or whatever, or I hate to say give things away. I'm not a fan of like exposure and things, but if it's a benefit to you, then that's something you should think about. If it's only benefiting somebody else who's getting whatever you're putting out, or giving, like if it was only benefiting the people who are getting cheap T-shirts, it wouldn't make sense to do that. But because I needed to get out of these tiers, so dropping those prices super low was helping me do that. So. Sometimes you just gotta, but you gotta start. And that's what I'm doing with the stuff that I'm doing. You can't just wait. You got to start building this, because it is going to take time. But if you don't start, you're that much further behind when you do need it. You don't want to get in a position like the person that sent me the email, where it sounds like they're kind of really in a bind, when maybe if they could have been building some of the stuff before that, they might be in a better place. So and I don't know if that's the case. I don't know the whole background and everything, but anyway. Yeah. So
and that's probably the perfect place to end, because I was just thinking about, I've been thinking about that a lot lately, is like, if you don't like your situation today, then do something about it today, and it might suck for months or years until it doesn't anymore. But if you don't do something about it today, it will continue to suck for months and years, and then you'll be months and years down the road having not done anything.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. All right. So, Cory, where can everyone find you?
Find me. Where's my little thing?
I got the Linktree one. Okay.
Yeah, find me at CoryKerr.com. If you want to find all my links, you can go to Linktree/CoryKerr. But if you go to CoryKerr.com, it's all there. Instagram. While practicing what I preach, while I was having this conversation, I finished editing a time-lapse video of 4 illustrations that I did last night, and I'm going to put them together in a carousel that will be up in about 15 minutes. So if you're listening to this right now, we've got 17 people that are watching this. I want 17 likes in 10 minutes, if that's okay, if you don't mind me begging for an ask here. But yeah, so that'll be going up on Instagram. But yeah, just check that out. I'm always trying to do stuff. I will be doing 3:30 Friday afternoons Mountain Time. I'm going to be doing the Illitalk Student Edition. I'm going to try to get that live. If not, it'll go up Friday evening. And so that's going to start happening weekly. I'd love to see people in the chats once we go live on that. And if you have anything that you would like kind of discussed on how to enter the marketplace, or how to do that type of thing, it's really helpful to get topics and questions and suggestions and stuff like that. And eventually we're going to start having like HR managers and people on to kind of talk specifically from the business side of things of like, this is what we look at for resumes, and these are things that you shouldn't do in an interview. And so I'm really trying to build that as something to help people to get work. So pay attention. Sure.
I even found I've got to go back and finish watching it, but what I watch, even somebody who's not really wanting to go back to, working for somebody else, I still found a lot of value in it. So definitely check that out. And the other thing I just wanted to say that, Cory, didn't you learn anything from your own advice? I mean, begging people for likes. We're talking about begging. Come on. I'm just kidding.
I tried to give a lot of value before I did the ask, right?
All right. So you can find me at circworks.com, where you can get like the Comic Maker Starter Kit or the Comic Maker Toolkit. Or if you want to get my new books, once again, I'll kind of show these. I'm just now releasing them. Also, there's also manga versions that are a little smaller. They've got a few more pages, but they're a little more digest size. But all kinds of tools for making comics. You can find those at amazon.com/shop/circworks. So yeah, this show that we do, the Artcasters, we do this every week. Usually my regular co-host is Joshua Kimball, and then we usually have a third guest on. It's a little different this time, but I think we definitely didn't run out of anything to say. So yeah, but normally it switches back and forth between Josh's channel or my own channel. And in like a case like today, where maybe you were expecting this to be on Josh's channel because that's who it was scheduled to be on, but it was on my channel, and you're like, hey, what's the deal? I was on Josh's channel waiting for this Artcasters and nothing popped up. Well, if you belong to the email list, you would know what's going on. Or in the event that Cory couldn't get on or whatever, and we just had to cancel, and I would need to send something out so you're not just sitting there like, what's going on? The best way to know that is to join our mailing list, and we don't spam you or anything like that. Usually about 30 minutes before we go live, we'll send out an email newsletter with the link to where you can find us, because YouTube isn't the best at sharing that stuff. So yeah, just join our mailing list. It's in the link. Also, the description in the link in the description of this video, and also links to Cory's channel, my own, and Josh. They're all there. And as always, I just wanted to thank everyone in the chat. It helps us a lot when you guys have relevant comments and things that we can kind of draw from and everything, and hopefully we were able to give some advice, because when I was writing that email, it's so hard for me to just write that stuff into words. It's much easier for me to sit down with somebody and just talk about this stuff, because I think that's when you get ideas, and hopefully that was helpful for a lot of people. And I'll definitely going to send out an email to who wrote a response email saying, hey, check out this video, because I think we did a better job covering this topic than what I probably responded in the first place. So anyway, thanks again to everyone in the chat, and we will see you next week. I'm guessing since Josh missed this week, it'll be on his channel, but again, join the mailing list and you'll find that out. Yeah, we'll see you guys later.
Thanks for having me on.
Mm-hmm.